Jesus here is speaking about the church. He made mention of the fact that more than just dying for the sins of the world, that he came to inaugurate an institution. He came to inaugurate a phenomenon, if I would call it, called the church. And he said that this entity will be so formidable. Listen carefully. It will be the entity that sustains the power to triumph and prevail over the gates of hell. The idea of church did not start with the founders of ministries. The idea of church did not start with some of our patriarchs alive and dead. The idea of church was not just a government initiative to have an institution that supports activities that relate to faith and spirituality. No, the idea of church was God's own invention. It was a product of God's own intelligence. Listen very carefully, because many believers view church as several things. For others, they believe that church represents a building that has some level of excellence connected to it, where believers come together and then they have the opportunity to worship God. Others believe that church refers to individuals. Others believe that church refers to any platform that carries a semblance of spirituality, or any platform that seems to have loyalty to the tenets of the Christian faith. So my question tonight, very briefly, is what is the church? I'm going to be giving you 3 dimensions of the church in our discussion tonight. What exactly is the church? Because if you do not know what the church is, you will embrace any definition that the devil gives you about the church. The reason why many people do not respect the church is because they do not even understand what it is. It is a very mysterious entity that the government cannot define. It is a mysterious entity that academicians cannot define. It was not a product of a research from an institution. The church came from the mind of the fountain of wisdom himself. So journey with me as we explore 3 definitions which represent 3 dimensions to our understanding of the church. Number 1, the first revelation of the church according to scripture is found in Jeremiah chapter 51 from verse 20. Please give it to us. Jeremiah chapter 51 from verse 20. It says, "Thou art my battle axe and my weapons of war, for with thee I will break in pieces the nations, and with thee I will destroy kingdoms." It says, "And with thee I will break in pieces the horse and his rider, and with thee I will break in pieces the chariot and his rider, and with thee I will break in pieces man and woman, with thee I will break in pieces old and young, with thee I will break in pieces young man and the maid." Last verse. "I will also break in pieces with thee the shepherd and his flock, and with thee I will break in pieces the husbandman and his yoke of oxen, with thee I will break in pieces captains and ruler." Is there any class of society that was missing here? None. You are my battle axe. I am using you. So the first definition of the church, write it down please, that the church is a spiritual strategy. More than a people, the first revelation of the church that I want you to have is the church as a spiritual strategy, an invention from God's intelligence, a spiritual strategy. Listen to me, mandated to be used by God as the only tool that is able to purge, to cleanse, to build, and to reveal Christ and his purposes in its fullness. This is the church. The church is a strategy. For instance, if I have a flat tire, or I have a problem with my car and I'm unable to move it, I can hire another car that will help to drag it to a place where it will be fixed. And a strategy is usually invented where I can connect, is that true? And connect with a moving car that is alive, a towing van, and then connect to the vehicle, and the towing van pushes it. That is a strategy to remedy for something. The fact that the church came into being is already proof that there was something that was not correct. Are we together now? So the church has come as a spiritual strategy to remedy a condition, to remedy a situation. There are names that were called in scripture. One of it is light, another is salt. Jesus Christ himself called us light and salt. That immediately suggests that for us to be called light means there is darkness. For us to be called salt means there is a level of tastelessness somewhere and lack of preservation. So the church is a spiritual strategy. The church, in fact, is the only spiritual strategy that sustains the ability to reveal Christ in his fullness and to bring him glory. Please write it down. The only spiritual strategy that has the capacity to reveal Christ, to subdue principalities and powers. Oh, this is powerful. Thou art my battle axe. That means wherever there is darkness, wherever there is confusion, listen carefully, wherever there is lack of growth and enlightenment, wherever the purposes of God have not been made institutional within any territory, it is a reflection that the church may not be there, or the church may not be shining as light. The church is a strategy. So do not ask why you are put in the midst of darkness. You are a strategy, God's strategy. Are we together? For every car that you buy, usually you would have a few tools in that car. Is that true? Most people would have a toolbox containing screwdrivers and spanners and all of those things. You would have an extra tire somewhere in the car, and you would have a jack, to help you if you have a flat tire. All of those things are tools, and they are strategies to make sure that for no reason do you stop moving forward if you need to. So when you have a flat tire, what do? You go to the back of that car and open up the toolbox, and you begin to effectively use the tools that will help, maybe replacement. There are times that you can bring out an extra tire that helps to move the car. There are times that you can bring out all kinds of tools. That is how you are. That means whenever there is darkness, God pulls out from his toolbox and brings someone out. The church is a spiritual strategy. Wow. I am not just a man of God, I am a strategy. Do you know what that means? I am a strategy, a tool to be able to achieve something very divine, achieve something very exact as far as the revelation of the Christ is concerned. That immediately cures you from this sense of complex and inferiority. You did not just happen across the surface of the earth. You were a strategy. A strategy takes time to bring forth. Many of you are mathematicians. If you are trying to solve a problem, you sit down, you think. Scientists will come up with all kinds of hypotheses and go through all kinds of verification systems until it becomes a theory. You are the final decision of the intelligence of God. Did you hear what I said? Your arrival, the church as a strategy, means you are the final decision of a conclusion. The parliament of heaven sat down and thought of how the purposes of God will remain, and you were the conclusion of that meeting. The church is a spiritual strategy, the only strategy that sustains the ability to make kingdom come a reality. Is God speaking to anyone? So when you know this, you do not begin to frown at the church every time you see the church involved in issues that represent darkness. If it is true that the church is a strategy, it means that strategy should find expression